scoured the internet and found what you had to say. And now, I shall expose you. Hello, beautiful people. I'm the Luschmaster. Welcome to my channel. Oh yeah, of course. Subscribe. This is everything you had to say about Elizabeth Keene from The Blacklist. She was so beautiful in the first episode. LOL. She looks like she's 20 in season 1. Megan Boone is such a beautiful and talented young woman. I have so much empathy for her character. I am sick of all the mean comments about her under these videos. Yes, Reddington and James Spader, of course, is a charismatic leader persona, but he's the one who turned her life upside down. Elizabeth was and still is the main character of the show. She is the key to unlocking Red's mystery. I'm watching season 3 now, and so far I love Liz so much. I don't get why everyone hates her. Liz is one of the best. I feel sad that she had to die on the scene, and I knew that her and Wrestler was going to be together. We love you, Megan. She was exactly what the writers wanted and needed her to be. A young, fresh-faced innocent who, through both Red and her faults, became a wretched, scheming murderer who betrayed those closest to her and nearly succeeded at matricide. I thought she played her part quite well, and I liked her. I don't know why they didn't just replace her character and continue the story to some kind of sensible conclusion in season 9 or 10. Lots of shows do it, and Liz did have more than one lookalike during the seasons. Go figure. There were many options for better endings in the Red and Lizzie story, regardless of her leaving the show. That's what really disappointed me. We are doing just fine. This is the best Liz we've ever had. The show is awesome this way. She is hilarious, like a caricature of a criminal. I just can't take her seriously. I really don't like the Elizabeth character. She doesn't have any special interesting characteristics, unlike all the other actors or characters in the series. Lizzie's acting looks really poor. I hope she's not the main character. Agent Keene is the worst character. Wow, this show blows. This ripoff from Lambs with a classic Hollywood beauty playing an agent. So sick of this charade. Red was right about everything. If only Liz would have listened. Keene's character is such an unfaithful, aggravating, and confusing character. After all the things Red has done, she was ready to take Red's life in the season 8 finale episode. How could she? Ugh. I was thinking she would take her own life, but eventually was shot, or else I'm sure, as usual, as a character is, she would say, "I'm sorry, I can't do it," and pull the trigger with her low-tone, emotionally irritating voice act. Her character didn't even thank Red for everything he has done for all those 30 years. Ungrateful. And was ready at the end to take his life. Why come if you can't pull the trigger? Selfish character. After all the required secrets have been told to Keene in season 8, episode 21 in Latvia, Keene says, "No, I want more. Tell me more." I literally felt like smashing her to the wall. Just take what's being told and stop blaming Red for everyone's death, which you and the others are responsible for. Keene and Donald's relationship is just awkward. Wish writers kept them as friends. I felt like Keene's character deserved at least a slap for being responsible for Anne's death, and at least once to see Red raise his voice against Keene. Keene's death, I felt more bad for Red rather than Keene. Red's work and sacrifice for those 30 years. James Spader is a brilliant actor. That moment when Keene says she will do it, killing him sitting in the park, season 8, episode 22, and the way Red looks at her, how heart-wrenching. And when Keen is standing there with a revolver outside the restaurant and Red's words, "That's all right, I understand." Man. Raymond Reddington's character is just outstanding, and James Spader nailed it in every sense. Ugh, they made Elizabeth into a whiny, illogical, foolish character. I almost gave up watching season 8 because she was so annoying. Heck, Hannah Baker gets more consistent and well-written dialogues than Liz. I hated Liz as a character. Liz really isn't that special. Remember when everyone loved Elizabeth? Speaking at the level of the writing, when Red met Elizabeth for the first time, it's obviously written to be a really important scene with a certain gravitas, and also the beginning of the end for Elizabeth in a way. Still trying to decide whether or not she's hot 8 years later. Oh my gosh. I miss her old messy hair with curled highlighted parts. Such an amazing character ruined by NBC. After the season 8 finale, I am never watching the next season. No Liz, no show. I still mourn for the Kinsler ship. They really brought them together after so long, and then she dies. I believed in them since season 1. We didn't need a will they, won't they with them, in my opinion. Keen and Wrestler's chemistry was strong from them since the beginning and didn't need much build-up. Should have just gotten together early, like The Office or Chicago Fire. This just felt unsatisfying. Funny how many people share the same opinion of the character of Liz, disliking her for her behavior. But it really broke my heart that she had to die. Sometimes I also disliked her, but the last 2 episodes of season 8, with her learning the truth, brought a satisfying resolution in my opinion. She was finally at peace with Raymond. He could have died happily, knowing he had succeeded after all, and Liz could have opened a new chapter in her life with good friends and resources to protect her daughter and also continue to do some good with the task force. Liz got a bad rap. I don't get why people keep complaining that Liz keeps getting mentioned. She's the center point of the entire show. That was the whole point. When she died, why do people just expect a character to be completely removed from the story? It doesn't make even a bit of sense. I'm sure the show's creators and Megan Boone wanted us to care deeply about Liz Keen's trials and tribulations and ultimate downfall, all throughout the series, all while rooting for her to come out on top, rather than stand up and cheer when she caught that bullet at the end of season 8. I'm hoping that Sia Malik character arc doesn't become as distorted as Liz's character arc did. In the first few seasons, the character of Liz seemed to have an abundance of potential, but by the end, she became completely obsessed with finding out all of Red's secrets. Was she just justified in getting the answers to secrets about her past? Yes. She had a right to know certain aspects, like why he came into her life, but she knew that he was there to protect her. She didn't need to know his previous identity, but she should have learned about Red's closest relationship to her mother. I don't buy the Red Arena theory because the reveal does not make sense with the mythology in the initial seasons. The writers didn't allow Liz to evolve and grow as a character after season 4. As far as Megan's acting goes, she is not my favorite actress, but her acting abilities did improve from the first season. And I think she played the Liz character the way she was supposed to. Liz was meant to be unstable and fragmented, always floundering because she was missing pieces of herself due to memory manipulation in her youth. After everything that happened in her 8-year journey and all the secrecy and miscommunication between her and Red, there is no wonder that she went off the rails. However, the lack of evolution and all the inconsistency in the writing was her downfall. I know he was a real father before her adoptive dad died from cancer in a hospital, or actually smothered with a pillow to prevent him from telling her that. It was on TV literally last night. Have you all missed it or have you forgotten? It was subtle and unspoken, but clearly implied and resulted in the man's death by the hands of Red. It also explained and made sense why he would give himself up in such a blunt manner and demanded that he only worked with her and no one else. Plus, why would a man like him do it in the first place or help her along with cases and career when he absolutely and definitely did not need to do it and wasting his time, money, and resources on doing so? Only a parent or someone who cares and loves you deeply would do that. It's pretty obvious, isn't it? Otherwise, it's complete nonsense and a bad script. Not to mention that she's totally annoying and behaving like a spoiled and stroppy teenager, and he still takes it all. And he has all the patience in the world. Finally, Agent Keen is dead. That character really annoyed me, to be honest. Just remove Liz completely from the show and it would have been 100 times better. Me and the wife are just tired of Liz and her entitled underhandedness. A lot of people died needlessly, and there was a lot of unnecessary hardship for other characters that she was the root of. Still, it takes a bit of satisfaction away knowing we'll know the truth about her and she won't. Season 9 is so far one of the best in several years, due in no small part to the loss of Liz. I watched from the beginning for Reddington and grew to quickly love Dembe. In recent years, Harold and Haram have also endeared themselves to me. My wife hated the Liz character so much that it would drive her wild if she was even on screen when she walked by. Funny though, the only character I personally ever hated on the show was her husband, Tom. The writers have done a great job of turning us against Liz. I grew to dislike her character very much. She became overly self-righteous, while Red is unabashedly Red. Love the show. In the TV show The Blacklist, starring James Spader. Actually, that's all you need to know about this show, is that he's in it. The other co-star's character, Elizabeth Keen, is annoying and should be killed off already, so there's more Spader monologues. Waited for 8 seasons to see Liz get killed. Now I feel happy. Liz was wooden, unlovable, and left no impetus to feel anything positive for her. Every time she appeared on the screen, I felt immediately bored. The only other cast member that bored me more was Tom Keen. It was pure torture to watch all scenes involving them, and doubled when they were together. She deserved the truth. Red is wrong. If only Red told her that woman wasn't Katarina, it wouldn't get this bad. He doesn't even need to tell her everything, just tell her the truth that matters. He ruined her life because of it. I still love Red though. I've never always liked Liz, but season 8 changed that. I started to feel really bad for her. Throughout the whole show, Liz had the mental capacity of a 2-year-old to understand a difficult choice, but season 4 episode 22 was nice for how she'd usually react. For all you people calling Liz annoying, she is not meant to be a likable character. That's the whole point. They took one of the most morally solid people in the show and through circumstances and loss turned her into one of the most morally ambiguous and downright crazy. No one could possibly go through all that she did and came out of it unaffected. She's not the person that she used to be, which is what makes her character so sad. I personally love that they went there, as it's an interesting breakaway from a redemption arc. You don't often get to see such a drawn-out corruption arc. Also, I think it's an understatement to call all of her glaring moral shortcomings and flippancy annoying. She's killed people in cold blood. I think that's a tad bit worse than annoying. A critical defense of Elizabeth Keen, the Blacklist battered, tormented woman. Unquestionably, no character from the Blacklist in social media rants has had more bile, invective, scorn, and rage hurled at them than Elizabeth Keene, which is astonishing when you consider she's the protagonist of the series. When writers create a protagonist for their stories, the goal for such a character is clear and essential. It's the protagonist of the story who carries the audience along with them on their journey. It's imperative to point out the crucial difference in nature of the protagonist in terms of their relationship to the audience and the audience's level of engagement. A protagonist may or may not be necessarily sympathetic. It is without exception that they must be empathetic. To be clear on those terms, sympathetic means likable, but empathetic means like me. The last is critical. We don't necessarily have to like the protagonist, but we have to see ourselves within the protagonist. Without that, the entire cause of the protagonist is lost. We are to experience the world of the story and, more importantly, the purpose of the journey through the eyes, mind, and heart of the protagonist. We ride along with their quest to restore the order of their life that, in her case, has been upended by a force or event beyond their control, making the sense of empathy a requirement. Lest anyone doubt Elizabeth Keene is the protagonist of the show, this is from the show description of Sony Pictures Television, that is basically the logline of the series. A new FBI profiler, Elizabeth Keene, has her entire life uprooted when a mysterious criminal, Raymond Reddington, who has eluded capture for decades, turns himself in and insists on speaking only to her. So in the decision by Red to enter Liz's life, uttering the words, "From this moment on, I speak only with Elizabeth Keene," is the event that uproots Liz's entire life. And this also makes Red, by definition, Liz's primary antagonist. When writers create the primary source of antagonism, the essential element is simple. The antagonist has to be the greatest obstacle to the quest of the protagonist. These conflicting desires are the nexus of dramatic writing. The level of engagement from the audience is directly tied to how defined, clear, and stark the opposing forces become. We want to know what is at stake in this situation. What happens if Liz gets what she wants? What happens if she doesn't get what she wants? What happens if Red's antagonism succeeds? What happens if it doesn't? We need to know not just what happens, but why it matters. Always required, though, is the notion that it's the protagonist's quest that we come to identify with, because ostensibly, that's how the writers should have constructed the show, but that's not what we have, and it's not what we ever had, which has become the central failing of the Blacklist. This show has taken its own protagonist and made her the hand Megan to the show's antagonist, in effect making her quest pointless and his antagonism the source of heroism, which means they've created a protagonist who isn't really committed to vanquishing the single greatest force of antagonism blocking her quest to restore order in her life. The failings of this dynamic are numerous. This is the root of why the audience has given up on the show year after year in larger numbers. The Blacklist starts with Elizabeth Keene's story as she's arrived in DC to the FBI to start her career as a desk jockey profiler in the criminal psychology division, making case assessments. She was not to be a special agent in the field hunting criminals. She had a husband she loved and they were getting ready to adopt. All that crashed because of Red. His purpose in both intent and execution was to commandeer her existence. We discover later this commandeering began before he even showed up. Almost 5 years in, during a flashback from Requiem, we get Red's raison d'être for making his entry into his life, where the moment before the opening of the pilot, he tells us He fears that elements from Katerina's past are circling Elizabeth like a pack of wolves in the night. One major problem with this: where was that on the screen? For most of the first 2 years, you come up empty trying to find any blacklister that was an element of Katarina's past who had Liz directly in their crosshairs just because of who she is. In fact, even the director who knew Katarina and knew Liz was Katarina's daughter did nothing to come for Liz until she let him know she had this fulcrum. It was then he decided to make her the scapegoat. Well, that and her murdering the Attorney General business. But let's be very clear, these wolves of her mother's past must have been circling someone else named Liz, because the Liz we have is basically lived out in the open as Masha Rostova for 4 years, as plain as day for any of these wolves to come and find her. So the whole meme that Red's mission statement of protecting her from the wolves is a tire that went flat a long time ago. The only wolf who actually came for Liz was Kirk, but not to harm her, to reclaim her. Kirk honestly and rightly believed that this was his daughter, making even more of a mockery of this Liz is in danger and Red has to protect her nonsense. Let's be clear on the consequences to Liz as a result of Red showing up. His first target was to destroy her marriage because the spy he inserted into her life flipped his allegiance to Red's enemy. So Red couldn't afford to have Tom feeding Berlin intel. So not only was his scheme to destroy her marriage to someone she loved, he was also withholding the fact that he was responsible for Tom's entry to begin with. Talk about commandeering. And Red was perfectly happy to keep Liz in the dark about that. Only Tom coming clean about it enlightened her to the depths Red would go for the sake of ruining her existence. That revelation from Tom to Liz alone would be enough for anyone to end their association with Red, but much worse was to follow. Let's have a tally. Her first day on this task force puts on a bridge where her convoy is attacked, her SUV is flipped, she loses the kid she's guarding, and in a second or two from taking a billet. Red knows the entirety of her past and she's aware of it, yet he purposely decides not to tell her anything she wants to know. With his cat and mouse, I wish the answer was as simple as the question, and I have answers you have questions you haven't even thought to ask manipulation. He murders the only man she ever knew as a father who volunteered to raise her, all because he was going to spill the beans to Liz, which is to help her and the detriment to Red. He sets her up as live bait, hiring the debt collector to kidnap her at a great risk to her own life, all to get Kate to call off her destruction of her empire. She loses her husband she loves, making her daughter fatherless, and loses almost a year of her own life to a coma, all because Red is trying to keep the secret of the bones a secret. She finds Red actively thwarting her attempt to avenge Tom's death by bringing Garvey to justice, and in the most perverse and decrepit psychosis of the narrative, she kills Garvey to protect Red, which is sickly unbelievable. And then she discovers he's been lying to her for 5 years about who he is. Any single one of this is enough justification for anyone to tell the perpetrator of such things to get lost. But taking all of them together, anyone with a brain would have shut this down ages ago. Especially so when Red's entire explanation for the continued torment amounts to this: I know more than you do. So you are just going to have to trust me that I know best, and I don't have to reveal my reasons to you for commandeering your life. Just get in line and do as I tell you, because I just know better. There is no question that nobody with even a sliver of self-respect would endure this, let alone sanction continue contact. Well, almost nobody. One would. The battered and tormented wife. And that's the central problem with this narrative. If you have gotten to this part of the video, comment the fire emoji. I'll see you again next time. Tra-la-la.